Hello, we are back with our first guest today. It's Dr. Phil Trinh, my supervisor. I know it's exciting to be here.
Hi.
Yeah,
It's good to be here.
every single time I have to do an introduction, I always get please.
You're okay.
No, so do you want to sort of briefly sort of explain a bit about who you are? Because this is not the first time you've been on Twitch.
It's not the first time I did when the pandemic happened. I moved some of my lectures onto Twitch. That was the first time. So I'm a lecturer here in applied mathematics here at the math department. So I do work on a lot of fluid mechanics, a lot of applied mathematics and mathematical modeling. And I also lecture. So I lecture second year courses and third year courses. So the ones that they're talking about is I during the pandemic I had to move. I think it was
Vector calculus and
vector
PDEs.
calculus and PDEs, and I think
I was in that.
you were in that. So I guess I'm jumping ahead now to should I talk about that?
I don't know.
It's okay. We can
talk
go down
about
this
it.
route. I mean, I kind of want to know from like my own perspective of why Twitch at that point in time.
Okay, so we have to put ourselves back to when the pandemic happened. So this was March. I think it was around March.
Yeah.
2020. Yeah.
And so second year Vector B is a big class. It's like 200 students.
Yeah, it was like most people take that as a second year one.
So not 200. They don't all show up. And it was at the time when we were hearing about the pandemic, and I was telling them in class that you got to be ready because I think it's all going to shut down. So then the university announced it was going to shut down, and that day I went to Screwfix, got chopped blackboard paint, and painted my kitchen wall.
Yeah, because I remember. So
that's amazing.
I remember my parents. I was talking to my parents because I obviously went homeschooling, and as my parents being impressed that you committed to painting a wall with
Just do it.
with that little chalk.
Well, my partner didn't live with me at the time. So just kind
I
of.
was gonna ask, how did the other people in the house feel about this? But...
Just my dog was happy about it. But, no, so I think it was just at a time when everyone was kind of fumbling around. The university didn't have any rules. Nobody knew what to do. So I didn't like. They wanted to do it on Teams. And I knew Teams was not good. I didn't want students to sign into this. I wanted students to just be able to open up a website and go to it. And I knew about Twitch from Reddit. Yes, like you heard about Twitch from Reddit, and it was just really easy to get in. So the first day we did Twitch, and that first day I realized you have to turn on moderator. They will write whatever.
Yeah,
because it's very anonymous, and I think there's definitely people who weren't even like part of the module.
Surprising, these second year students are not as mature as you'd think.
Yeah, Henry.
So
because I definitely also remember like other people who weren't even part of the university who'd like heard about from like through friends of friends, and then just saw like
you get random people who just play games. And then we did it again the semester after.
Yeah.
And I had people who came back from Vectors and people, oh, this just popped up on my Twitch stream, and I'm just stopping by. It was a really good experiment because you got so much more interaction. People were asking a lot more questions, and they're like helping each other. Some people were like, oh, I don't understand what this means on the board, and then someone else would chat and write in. So that was a very positive thing that came out of it.
We actually feel like the anonymized chat where it's sort of like you're not to be doing something as not to be looking as much. It actually was actually quite a nice way of doing lecture materials because you could just it felt a lot easier to ask a question in that chat.
Yeah. And it was really nice. Obviously, it was at a time when everyone was a bit, worried about what was going on. So it was just. We do look back on that period like, oh, it was quite nice, that pandemic, that it was beautiful summer, and you walked around and it was good weather. But it was and then the semester after, that was the hard one because at that point everyone was just sick of online stuff.
It was the initial excitement and like novelty of like going home during the term time, which I found like just like, oh, I'm now at home and doing stuff as opposed to being, online.
And so I think it was a good experience. Twitch, I don't know whether I would. I think the thing that you have to remember about Twitch is that it brings a whole new audience to it, right? So you get people who wouldn't participate, but also you get people who won't participate because they. I didn't realize, for instance, that you have to have an account to comment on Twitch.
Yes.
So I realized that you could join really easily, but then there are people who emailed me during the lecture who said, well, we think it's a good format, but we couldn't actually comment without an account, and so you have to realize it might open some doors and then it might close other doors.
Yeah, I mean, what I find particularly amusing just from you doing this is you're kind of in part the inspiration for behind the research with this. So because you were using Twitch, I actually went the other way. So instead of using Twitch to teach, I started teaching and realized it was like Twitch. So I came back across and realizing that there is a space for people who are interested in maths, even if it's just to troll on the internet at people doing it, there is still a space for it.
Yeah, because also the university administration, they don't understand, like, they just, for us, we're like, we want the ability to just go on a website and join right in, right? For us, that's really important. We understand that's really important to expose people to, because kids are just lazy these days, right? They don't want to open up an account and so yeah, that's the kind of thing where if you are locked in, I guess, to how people communicate these days, then it might enhance some of your teaching.
Yeah, I think if you're meeting people where they're at. Do you have any desire to get the Twitch channel back up and running?
Absolutely.
No.
It's just it was so because I guess the audience doesn't see it as a whole setup here and multiple people helping with this, but yeah, if you're doing it yourself,
it's quite a lot.
It's a lot. It would take me an hour before the lectures to get set up.
Oh wow!
And then you just so much equipment around, and I enjoyed it, but it's an operation.
Yeah, it really is. We're very lucky that we have half of the team off camera. Beth and Seb somewhere in there, I'm sure, helping out. So we are fortunate in that regard. Okay, so
did you ever try using like Zoom or Teams to lecture, or did you all your lectures you ever did remotely on Twitch?
I started using Zoom. I think I started using Zoom in the following semester. I mean, I guess the thing that the audience might not appreciate is that if you're lecturing a class, I mean, traditionally you would just go with notes and you go up there. It's all you have to do is communicate these notes, right? And then with Twitch and with online stuff, it brings a whole new element. So it's just so much more to worry about every time you're doing, and it's just a lot to worry about. So with Zoom, for instance, our university eventually made it so that it was very easy for you to schedule in the lectures, and you wouldn't have to. So it all comes with pros and cons, and it's hard. I think if you're just starting off teaching, you want everything to be perfect, and you want the students to have the best experience, but then you start getting busy and you realize I'm putting 6 hours into this 1 hour class, and then you start have to draw the line a little bit.
No, that's definitely reasonable. Okay, I'm gonna jump us kind of all the way back then. So obviously you're a lecturer at Bath now. Start at the beginning. So your undergrad.
So I did my undergrad in Ottawa, it's the capital of Canada, Ottawa, Ontario. So that was in like pure mathish. At a university called Carleton University, so it's a smaller university, but it was a good university, and I did an MSc there in applied math, so I switched over, and then after that I went to Oxford and did a PhD there, also in applied math. Then I spent 2 years in New Jersey, in Princeton, in America, doing what's called a postdoc, which is kind of a period for your PhD. And then back to Oxford for another number of years as a college tutor and as a lecturer there, and then finally to Bath. So that is a pretty long journey.
Nice, yeah, that's quite a few jumps across the pond then.
Yeah, I traveled. I learned to not accumulate so much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's best.
Yeah, it's the student. It's the mathematician's life. It's traveling mathematician's life. Yeah.
It's okay. You can take blackboard paint with you instead of the entire wall. So.
Yeah, you do get tired. You do eventually. There was a period where I was.
Benandikun is now following.
Thank you.
There was a period where I was like, yeah, like a dog. So that means less traveling. But
That's fair. Did you get the dog and then decide less travel, or were you in a position where you were traveling less?
I got to Bath in 2017. Was in Bath. So I think I got my dog in 2018, 2007, around that time. But yeah, I mean, I think traveling is one of the great pleasures of being an academic and a student. You get to go to conferences, and you get to. There's a really nice thing about being mobile. Eventually, life starts to slow down a bit. All your friends are buying houses and getting babies, and at this point, you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be moving countries every year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, I mean, that's a good few jump around.
Yeah, there's a really valuable experience traveling, and I mean, what I guess what the audience might not appreciate is that applied math or math is different everywhere in the world. You know, so Britain has its own style of applied math, and Canada has its own style, America has its own style. And also, education is different everywhere in the world. Students are different everywhere in the world, and I really appreciate having gone to all these different locations. And it does make you into a bit of a better person having talked to people in different areas.
I guess from both sides of this, then, which system do you think was kind of best for you? So, like, did you like the teaching style in Canada versus the
So the difference is that in Britain you specialize really quickly. So even before the end of your A levels, you're like, okay, I'm going to be doing maths, and then in already in first year everything is in maths, and second year everything you can kind of do electives outside, but largely it's maths.
Yeah.
The only sort of electives you could take at Bath was like maybe a foreign language module. It's like the only thing you can.
You can kind of do economics. You can do an odd course in economics.
Or like I've taken a couple of computer science modules and stuff, but
and then the North American style is they call it liberal arts. So that essentially means that in first year you might only be taking linear algebra and calculus, like 2 modules every semester. And then everything else in first year, you're taking courses from natural sciences, from physics, from humanities, etc., philosophy. I took a lot of philosophy courses when I was in undergrad.
Oh, cool.
So you can kind of ask, well, which is the better system? I mean, when I first got to Britain, I was really indignant. It's like, oh my goodness, how can you do what you do? Like every course in maths is crazy. And then I would tell the British students, and they're like, no, I came to study maths. Of course, I'm going to be doing anything. I don't want to be doing history, etc. And then you tell the Americans, and they're like, oh, this sounds horrible. I don't want to be doing every course in maths. I want to be doing this and that. So every country has its own advantage. I do feel that it's really early to specialize in Britain, and it works well if you are a talented student and you love math or whatever. But a lot of 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds don't know what they're going to be doing, and then they get locked into doing a degree.
Yeah, I knew lots of people who like started up maths and realized like after year 1 and stuff and dropped out.
And so in America, you get people who change degrees in their third year. They're changing from math to economics or something. You also get people who do longer degrees. Though in Britain, you're starting to see that more now. See, Bath has a placement program, right? So, and that's very popular, and you could argue that's really good for the students as well. So that's more of a thing that has already been there in America and Canada for a long time, which is students spending a longer amount of time to get a more broad training. Then again, it's expensive, So I think at the end of the day, every country is producing good students, and but you have to be aware that you are very specialized in Britain.
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely locked into that front. That's cool you did philosophy though. Was that the furthest from maths that you say that you did at undergrad?
I think a lot of mathematicians like philosophy.
Yeah,
I've heard them argue.
I mean, there's like a lot of specialist maths. I knew somebody from school who did a maths and philosophy course.
Yeah, the two are historically, a lot of mathematicians have been philosophers and vice versa, right? Philosophy is kind of like careful examination of everything, So I took philosophy of science, which was interesting. You learn about Descartes, who did a lot of math, of course, and philosophy is kind of about breaking down thinking and arguments into crystal clear messages and reconstructing it. So that's the mathematician's philosophy. So I took philosophy. I really enjoyed. There was a time when before my PhD, I was like, oh, I might do a master's in philosophy, but then I was like, oh, that's stupid. Come on.
Did you so when you always like starting university or college, did you always know you were going to do maths, or was there like?
I would say that in school, I was always like looking forward to math. Like I would be reading about mathematicians and wanting to be a part of that world, and wanting to be engaged in research and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say I always knew that I like that kind of lifestyle, like that pursuit.
Oh, that's interesting. So when you then made the decision to do the master's and then PhD, did you kind of know you wanted to go out of Canada for PhD, or was that just an opportunity that kind of arose? Or
yeah, I definitely want to get out of. I think that was you're young, you want to travel, so I didn't have a great reason. I knew there were great universities in America and the UK. I didn't want to go to America, even then. So the UK was a very romantic idea, I suppose. Harry Potter. She wanted to go to the UK. And I guess what I did for my master's was like waterways, and there's a very rich tradition in the UK. I mean, that is something that I appreciate much more. UK, we were talking about the difference between applied math in America versus Britain. The British applied mathematics was heavily influenced by like engineers, right? So people like Isaac Newton, who worked for the Royal Mint and then did math in his spare time. Whereas America was much more influenced by German mathematics or formal mathematics. And so it means that applied math in America is much more pure than it is in Britain. In Britain, it's applied. And so when I go over to America, for instance, for my postdoc, I was kind of between engineering and applied mathematics. I'm too applied for the engineers and too pure for the engineers, too applied for the mathematicians.
So that's interesting. I get a lot of comments on different Twitch streams about fluid dynamics sitting in physics rather than maths, and then how do you define where you sit, whether it's maths, physics, or engineering? And I guess it's kind of a very personal choice, would you say?
Well, I can tell you a story for that.
Please.
So this is when I was a postdoc. So I was officially hired by the math department in Princeton, but I kind of worked between mechanical engineering and applied mathematics. And so I worked for a very famous fluid mechanician, Howard Stone, like really fantastic guy. And we were sitting on he has a couch in his lab. He has a big lab, many people inside. This is the difference between maths and engineering, right? They have a big lab of a lot of people. And I was sitting on that sofa with another British mathematician. We were working on this problem together. And so this problem involving thin films and fluids, etc. And there's an equation we're looking at, and this equation had multiple solutions, and we were trying to characterize these solutions, trying to describe their behavior. So Howard comes along, and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And we try to explain, "Oh, there's these many solutions, and we're trying to derive their behavior." And he goes, "It's not important, just publishing. You should move on." and then we're like, "You can do that? you don't have to just solve everything." And so that is, I think, the difference between applied maths and engineering and physics, right? Like we ultimately, as mathematicians, we're interested in like structure. We want to dig and keep on digging. And some of the things that we look at are, they are physically relevant, or they're motivated by physics. They're important. They come up in real life. But we are also interested in solutions that may not appear in real life because it's unstable, because of other reasons. But it's part of the bigger picture. We feel like you have to understand this bigger picture.
Yeah.
So we have the luxury of continuing to dig. That's what we like to do. We have these problems, and the engineers and the physicists might have slipped away because they're like, okay, I just need my picture so I can write my code and etc. We want to study the whole thing, and I think obviously pure mathematicians take that to the extreme, and we all kind of have a cutoff at one point. We're like, okay, this is way too, formal and abstract, and I'm happy to move away to another applied problem. But that is a big difference between, do you want to be a mathematician, do you want to be an applied mathematician, or do you want to be an engineer? How deep do you want to dig into those questions?
No, I think it's a really good way of putting it, and that's kind of definitely from the small number of papers that I've started reading. As soon as you start touching like physics journals and engineering journals, the depth to which they go on the problem rather than just like explaining a phenomena is interesting.
They have their own, we don't want to disparage the physicists.
No, it's
they've
really
got
cool.
their own, they need to make money, but I guess as a mathematician, it's not that we feel like it doesn't make money looking at these things, but we just feel like it's fundamentally important. It's part of fundamental mathematics. You do need to continue digging because eventually you will emerge with the important applications.
Yeah, no, very true. Sorry. There we go. Trying not to kick everything is quite difficult in this room. Fantastic. So jumped across to the US and then back to Oxford and then back. Yeah. Was that a conscious choice to go back to Oxford, or was it just an opportunity arose?
I mean, it's always a mixture of both, right? Academic jobs are, academics are a little bit like professional sports players, right? We without the athleticism, but we kind of have to move where we work in very specialized areas, and positions are not always available. So it essentially means that you have to be ready, just like if you're a footballer, you have to be ready to move to a different city. So I would say it's one of the big issues of being an academic is that you, unlike all your friends who will be, I live in London, I'm going to get a job in London, or I live in Wales, I'll be able to stay in Wales and get a job there, right?
That would be nice.
But as an academic, you have to be willing to be much more flexible with where you go. So my position was coming to an end in America. I could hold on to it, but a position opened up in Oxford that I was happy about. And I also found it hard in America. This difference in style was you're younger then, you're less independent, and you're trying to publish papers and you're trying to make your way. And that kind of environment where you're between fields is hard at an early stage.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mixture of the position was there, and I'd love to get back to Oxford, and then also I was happy to leave New Jersey and Princeton.
That's fair enough. Very quickly, if you had any advice for someone looking for a postdoc in fluid dynamics in the next, say, 6 to 9 months, do you have any advice for that sort of person?
Do you have any positions at that open? I don't know. 6 to 9. If you're looking at me for advice for 6 months, I think you've got bigger problems.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Go. Yeah. There's no advice I can. Nothing that I can say in a small amount of time.
That's fair.
Except, you shouldn't be looking for advice on this Twitch stream.
Reasonable. Fab. So I guess coming to the end of the not end of your career, up to recent day then. So you've been at Bath for
2017 now.
6
years, I guess. 6 years.
Yeah. Enjoying it?
Yeah, I love Bath. It's really good. Come to Bath. Do a degree. It's Bath. Yeah. I really like. I always say this to people because I live in Oxford for so long. I really enjoy Bath compared to Oxford because Oxford is super university town, right? And I grew up in a city where you have a separation from I guess like a campus university and then your city. And so you're not constantly present university, and so Oxford is kind of your university is always there, and you feel it every day. If the students aren't there, you feel it. Whereas Bath, the city is kind of it's up a hill. It's not so far from the city center. It's pretty close to the city center, but it feels a lot further because of the hill. But people don't automatically assume that you're always there as a student, right? And there's more of a city feel in Bath than in Oxford's. And I like smaller places. I don't quite like London. And yeah, when I first moved to Bath, people made fun of me because they said I only live in World Heritage sites, Oxford and Princeton, and then Bath. Which is probably true, right?
I like that style. That's fine.
Yeah, you do run out of them though. So there's not that many that go around.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bath is a beautiful city, and it's a great university. It's a good tight department. I don't want to sell it anymore. Bring strong talent here.
I mean, yeah, and you definitely have a good percentage of that department as your supervisory team. No, the other one.
Yeah, we have a good group. Yeah. We have a good group of applied mathematicians here. Yeah,
one of which is Henry.
Yeah,
I know. The newest one to your group.
Yeah. So how many PhD students do you have at the minute?
Yoshua has submitted, so I don't know whether I count him. 3, 4-ish, I guess. No. You're not sure whether to count some of them because they hang around after they submit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's the other thing the Twitch audience might not appreciate is just they see it as a PhD student, but there's phases. Right? There's like the first year and the second year. There's like the 6th year, some of them are still around, right? And every phase is kind of a different vibe to it. So yeah, I guess around 4 that are.
So that's quite a good number. I think that's definitely like the average supervisor tends to only have 1 or 2 students.
Well, it's like talking to some of our like colleagues and PhD students when they apply, so like their supervisor just has them as a student. It seems like a very like applied mathematicians seem to have a lot more like supervisor like students and stuff.
I guess one of the things I learned from working with the mechanical engineering group was they had a whole. I mean, you can see this as a good thing or a bad thing. They have a whole culture in their group, and so for example, what you would see is the older students helping the younger students. You would see that because he was so busy as a supervisor, he couldn't meet everybody, and in some ways it's a good thing because it meant that as you know you would learn you would grow as a PhD student because you learn what the older students do and they would help you. So I try to do that a bit with our group, which is to if a student is writing up, I try to get one of the older students to help them and to read their work and to it's a little bit of delegation. It's a bit of a Ponzi scheme. But
so you set up an applied maths MLM in the department.
There's not, yeah. But it does get to be a bit of there is a stage where you're like fewer students and you should give more attention to the current student. But when it works, it's really nice because I think that's one of the great things of being a graduate student is just connecting with students, learning what it takes to graduate, learning how to do research, and so I hope to do that.
I do like the group dynamic and stuff, and it's nice to be able to like message people and ask like, do you have this book or have you got access to this paper and stuff?
Yeah, group pizzas. Group
lunch.
Group meals. Group lunch.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's a good thing to have that department or group environment. Do you find that when you do meet with all of your different students, you cater your supervising, like meeting to them, and then like kind of how big of a range do you have in your supervisory style?
So I tell you guys that there's like a rota list of students, like the problem ones go to the top, and then you slowly get filtered down. And every week, there's a new one that comes with it. I guess a good supervisor, so all of my students, I kind of like imagine their final thesis. I'm always like conscientious of they got to write 7 chapters or 6 chapters, and we're currently in year 2, and they're working through chapter 3 of whatever, right? So
Okay.
I'm imagining their path through their degree, and so the supervision meetings, that I guess that's happening behind the scenes in my head of they're currently in their 2nd year, they need to be ready to do this by their 3rd year, etc. Right? So I guess when you look for a supervisor, you hope they are imagining your path through the PhD.
Mm.
And part of, I mean, your question was, do you tailor? Yeah, you do. There's some you have to learn. There are some students I have who are super independent and who I don't have to do very much with. It's just get them to go to more conferences or get them to give more talks or to encourage them in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's some students that I have to really try to help them on a work habits thing, and I sit down with them and I say, okay, tell me how you organize your notes. Can we, do you have a good scheme for organizing code? Some students have to send them to learn coding with other people, etc. So everybody is different.
Mm.
I mean, I'm still learning, right? It's just
Mm.
it's like being a teacher. You're constantly learning. And then some students, you go through the highs and lows with students, right?
Mm.
Like there are some students who, again, that's the other thing that I get the channel might learn is that a PhD is not like a slow climb from A to B, or even like a constant. It's like dips, and you get periods of depression, So there'll be periods where you don't make any progress for like 6 months, and I guess sometimes the supervisor's job is to know when that's normal and say, okay, we haven't made any progress but we will break through there, or to shift you on to a different track, right? And to say, okay, we need to split our research into 2 bits now and do 1 bit that is going to pay off and 1 bit which is a bit more risky. So all these decisions you have, as students, you have to also make, but as supervisor, you kind of have to try to
anticipate.
Yeah, so I suppose that especially earlier on, they're looking to you to like. I definitely found at the beginning of the PhD, and I don't know if you have this or you have less insecurity than me, but there is a point where you start thinking your supervisor knows everything.
Oh no, yeah,
Say
no.
when you're a kid and you think of like your parents know everything, and as you progress, you start to realize that actually we're all kind of mumbling through in the same way, but you have a better guide or intuition on.
Yeah, the
direction.
supervisor doesn't know everything, but they know how to handle the dips. They've been through those dips. They know when dips are, because hopefully they have the experience that'll teach them that the dip is going to be accompanied, or sometimes you're just like, this dip is you gotta abandon this dip, right?
I've like definitely found like there's been times where like, I'll be stuck on something and I come to one of our meetings and you say, have you tried this one thing?
Yeah.
And I'll try this one thing, you put it in like mathematical, like
they know tricks. But supervisors know tricks. They know a lot of tricks.
Yeah, it's just like there's lots of like these like things to do when you get stuck in the source, because I've not ever like gotten stuck in that way before. I don't know like the good ways to like unjam the thought pipes or
that's one of the hardest things about being a PhD student, is that before your PhD, all the problems you do are like the time scale is like a day.
Yeah.
It's like a week, right? You got a problem set in class, you got a week to solve it.
And it's also the fact there's a set of nice solutions.
And there's a solution. This is a problem that someone cooked up and designed it, so there has to be a solution. Otherwise, they made a mistake, and all the students are complaining now. But for a PhD, now you're working on a problem. You don't know that there's a solution. You think there's a path from A to B, and it's like it's such a long time scale. This 3-4 years that you're going to be doing this 3.5 years or something that you're going to be doing this problem is a time scale you've never coped with.
Yeah.
And so you have to be okay with having a whole week where you've come in and you've worked every day at this thing and you've made 0 progress at the end of that week. And that's really hard for some students to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's not going to be too difficult for
No.
you, because you've got your supervisor here. And then just to finish off, I prepared a little quiz for you both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you both a pad of paper, we were going to get whiteboards, but we're not that fancy. So we raided the store cupboard.
Oh, God, I've done these at weddings.
Yeah, that was the inspiration. Don't look into it too much.
No.
So, you're going to write your own question. You don't have to write what you think Henry's going to put. But I would just like you to write down what your answer is, and we're going to see how well they match up. Do you guys have similar vibes when it comes to your opinion on maths? So, question 1.
It's too late, Henry. You've committed. Done.
Yeah, let's not look too into
Okay.
the answers.
It's psychoanalyzing.
This is a bit awkward. Let's go back. Question 1. What is your favourite fluid phenomena? So if you watch the Simon Clark YouTube video with cats ranks fluid phenomena, it can be anything from as abstract or as specific as you like. If it's really pretty, you get bonus points. And if you can describe it well for the internet. Mm.
Shall I draw a picture?
Oh, yes, please. Don't suppose you have the YouTube link to the fluid phenomena tier list that you want to chuck in the chat, because that would be fantastic.
I can try.
Yeah. Well, what we should do is I can do the what's the do
Countdown music or just elevator music in general.
elevator music in general. You both good?
Oh, there's another one. Okay. Let's do another one.
Okay. So Phil, what is your favorite fluid phenomena?
I put wave breaking.
Nice. I love it. Henry?
The Benjamin Pierre instability.
That's alright. Both deal
Waves?
with
Waves, yeah. Sea surface flows.
Instabilities.
We're on okay, so that's pretty in the sphere of fluid dynamics, those are pretty
Yeah.
close. That's quite good. Okay, next question. Who is your favorite mathematician from history? If chat want to participate in these questions, you are more than welcome to see how compatible you are with Phil and Henry as well. Thank you, seriously. We're getting a picture for this one as well,
Oh,
apparently.
no picture.
I'll get a picture of this one.
Okay, Phil, who's your favorite mathematician?
Stokes. Stokes was a physicist, Cambridge physicist.
Mhm.
A lot of contributions in water waves in 1800s.
Very nice.
I pick green and I draw a windmill because he was a milliner.
Both
Yeah,
applied math.
Yeah.
Applied maths.
Where
Yeah.
was Green? Was Green Cambridge?
Green was Cambridge, yeah, but Green wasn't Cambridge for ages. He was a baker and milliner up in the village, and he had correspondence with somebody that being gave him the work and we don't understand what you're doing. You should talk to these people in Cambridge and stuff.
Mm.
So then he went to Cambridge and did his stuff in Cambridge quite late in his life.
See, there's always time. There's always time. Do you get your Oxford alumni revoked if you pick a Cambridge professor?
No, I think it's surprisingly that the departments are not as connected as you'd think. But
That's fair. That's fair.
and Cambridge is a lot further than you think.
It really is.
You think it's close, but it's actually not so.
No, I drove there week before last, and it was a very nice drive, but it was a very long drive. Got through half an audiobook. Okay, question number 3. And given the previous conversation, I could be quite far apart. What was your favourite topic that you studied at undergrad?
Oh.
And this can be entire module or very specific thing, up to you. Yeah, I personally only did maths modules at undergrad, so my list of selection is quite small. However, I think I'd probably pick number theory just for the fun.
It will be different. I think.
Yeah. I'd be very impressed if it was the same, but
I'm trying to remember the exact module name.
bonus points if you give me the code for it.
Oh no! Oh, XX1090.
The only one you remember. Okay, Phil, what was your favourite topic you studied at
Now
undergrad?
I'm saying this. I enjoyed philosophy.
No,
I
enjoyed
took
philosophy.
philosophy. Yeah. Lots of possibilities.
I did viscous fluids.
Nice. I think you lose points for not picking Phil's module,
Oh, well, which one I've done? I've done so many with.
and that's none of them.
No, I did.
Dynamics. Okay.
No, I never did dynamics calculus. I did. I did math methods and vector calculus and PD. You also my tutor in my first year. Yeah, you tutored me in my first year for the first year calculus module.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Aww.
Pay attention. Of course.
Okay. That was pretty good. Pretty good. Question number 4. What is your favorite way to de-stress after work?
Oh man.
I think I know what Henry's going to put for this one, but I might be wrong. Yeah, so having a chill out after work is obviously very important. We in a high stress environment a lot of the time. It's good to relax. And we're getting an essay from
Two.
Okay. Sit comatose on a sofa or go to the gym. Those are two very different ends of the spectrum.
Depends on how depressed I am.
Okay, Henry?
I play video games with climbing.
Okay. Sitting on a sofa or going to the gym. I feel like those are both.
I could play video games on the sofa.
Yeah.
I feel like those match quite well. Climbing gym is a thing.
We did have a group video game session.
Yeah.
With our
I
students.
had pizza. It was nice.
That's really cute. What games did you
It
play?
was overcooked.
Nice.
It did turn into somebody like because there was how many was
There was like yelling. People were.
I mean, it was like we basically there was like 4 people playing and 1 person shouting commands.
Yeah, that's me. I'm actually banned from playing Overcooked in my house because I get too competitive. We played Plate Up on stream once and
Okay.
it wasn't good. Okay, we have one more serious one and then one fun one. So,
These have all been fun.
thank you. Correct answer. Question number 5. If you weren't in your current career, what would you be doing?
Oh hell.
It's always good, especially towards the end of the PhD, Henry. You might start thinking about backup plans. So I think mine at the minute is go and open a library/bookstore.
Nice.
That's the same thing. So bookstore / cafe. Those are the words.
All right.
Industrial research.
Yeah,
okay, so
boring.
the same thing but in a different font.
I think it sounds yeah.
Okay, so that's good. You know what track you're on, Henry.
Teacher.
I should say something interesting like I'd be a carpenter. You know.
No, if I didn't get SAMBa, I had between SAMBa and I was teaching all lined up. If I didn't get a SAMBa position.
Teaching maths or
Yeah, it was a maths teacher position.
Okay, I'm going to say those answers are quite close, given that you've both picked basically just different aspects of your career as it stands.
I do feel like we should branch out of that.
Yeah. You can come work in my bookstore cafe. Yeah. I think my favourite one I've seen is the Twitter space or whatever it's called at the minute. PhD students all banding together and opening a bakery. I think that's the vibe. It's just
when I was young, I said I was going to open a coffee shop. That was
nice.
I always wanted to do woodworking, like cabinet making.
Okay. See, we get some interesting answers there. Final question: if you can only have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It's like it depends on like what mood. Like
Nope. Any mood, every mood that you're in for the rest of your life. One meal.
It has to be something like healthy.
You want? Yeah, I think it's telling like how quick your answers are coming out on these fronts. It's good.
Do a zip.
Okay, I think I know what the answer's going to be here then.
That's not how I do it. I'm being.
draw pictures.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. I forgot how to do
I
like.
think that's what that
Yeah, I
meant.
know. I forgot to join up.
Ooh, okay. We got pho and we got pizza. They
Pizza.
both begin with P,
Yeah.
so that counts.
I forgot they were supposed to match up.
Yeah.
I could have easily guessed
Authentic.
pictures, yeah.
But no, good shout. And I think after that, do you feel closer as supervisor now?
That feels something.
You can go for an Italian Vietnamese restaurant.
Or an
Talk
Italian
about
beer
research.
that fusion restaurant must exist somewhere.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We unfortunately have to call it there because we have our next guest joining us soon. But thank you so much. This has been really good chatting.
Very nice. You should have me again. I had a good time.
More than happy to. Definitely. Is there anything you would like to say to the chat before you go?
Don't take any response I gave seriously.
Except when said come to Bath.
Yeah, that
Come
bit.
to Bath. Beautiful here.
It's
We'll have a
great.
good time. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. We will see you soon.
Hello.
How's it going? And for our second guest of the stream, we'd like to welcome Christian Jones. Hello, Chris.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
He's more than welcome. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad actually. The weather's improved, so I'm definitely happy about that.
Yeah.
No idea what it's like in Bath, but
It's nice. It was nice to be outside, eating lunch rather late for the last few days.
very
Well, the
nice.
humidity is,
Oh, killer.
yeah, it's definitely. So obviously you're not in Bath at the minute. Where are you at, buddy? You can be in general. We're on the internet.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I exist. I'm on Earth. I guess to be more precise, I've gone back home to North Wales for a few weeks just to see my parents.
Oh, very
I've
nice.
Come back from a 80s festival as well last weekend, so that was a bit of a hectic one.
Very, very good. So you having like a holiday, a work holiday? What's the
So
ignore the
far,
fact we pulled you in this?
yeah, and so far it's been quite relaxed. Actually, my supervisor's away, so I've taken that as a cue to just not do anything for a while. So I think
Very nice.
over the next couple of weeks might be a bit more busy.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I suppose especially you don't want to be doing maths after a fun festival weekend.
Yeah, I think I've just about got my sleep pattern back to normal. I think
Yeah, as they say, don't drink and drive.
that's true. Good point.
That's so bad.
I'm proud of that one. That's I've peaked. That's it. Thank you. We're ending the stream now.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris, obviously, North Wales. We will talk about that later.
Absolutely.
But can you give us a bit of like, who are you? What do you do? What's your vibe specifically with regards to your career? But like, yeah, who is Christian Jones?
Yeah, as you know, I'm from North Wales. I came down to Bath to do my undergraduate in about 2016. Feels like 7 years now, isn't it? That's for ages. Yeah. So and then I liked it. I liked it so much, or Stockholm syndrome kicked in, and then I reapplied to join the CDT SAMBa and basically carry on the math path. Most of my research, or at least throughout the time I've been doing maths, it's been on fluid mechanics or continuum mechanics, stuff like that. And it's just been getting progressively more and more weird as I've gone through. And now I've got to viscoelastic fluids is what my PhD is on at the moment. So
fantastic. And for those of us at home that haven't done 4 fluids modules, what is viscoelastic fluids? What does that mean?
Really funky. So everyone's happy with the idea of viscous fluids like water and oil, for example. And then also there's elastic solids as well. For example, if you look at springs, trying to stretch those, and if you release them, they'll bounce back to where they were. And these fluids sort of have properties of both. And you can characterize that sort of the fluid has some form of memory. So elastic solids, they remember perfectly. So if you deform them and release them, they will bounce back to exactly where they were. And you can do that sort of indefinitely. But because of the viscosity, there's some sort of loss of memory because there's friction in the fluid. So if you try to deform it and let it go back to where it was, it doesn't quite return to the original state, which comes with it a load of really horrid and crazy properties, but they're really cool to mess with.
Very nice. Is there like a obviously when people talk like non-Newtonian fluids, they always bring up like ketchup or putty and stuff. Is there like an iconic viscoelastic fluid that people might know in their everyday, or is it?
It's usually plastics. It's stuff you can heat up and allow to flow. I guess in the production of Lego is probably the cool one. I guess cookie dough is also viscoelastic too.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then if you try to heat them up and try to get them to set into perfectly formed cookies, you get a range of different gooiness, I guess, is the sort of property we're looking at here. But
okay, so part-time fluid dynamicist, part-time baker is what we're learning.
Perfectly baking cafe.
It's honestly, we're just going to recruit. I think it needs a fluids-based pun. Sorry, in our previous interview we were talking about backup careers, and I think baker is like owning a bakery is definitely a good one for backup for a maths PhD. So especially if you have.
I need to start doing cake. I think that's the
definitely.
Is wax also viscoelastic? Because then we could have a baker and a candlestick maker.
I've unleashed the puns and I regret it dearly.
No, I'm here for it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So first to admit Stockholm syndrome from Bath undergrad. How did you find Bath as an undergraduate student?
So it was really fun. Definitely the course I thought was quite hard. It's quite pure based, I think, the maths undergraduate at Bath.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of analysis. So that's primarily where most of my units were taken. I did make sure I took as many continuum mechanics, fluid mechanics, and quantum. I guess quantum mechanics was the other big one as well. But yeah, in terms of maths, I really enjoyed it. In terms of everything else, my first year was absolutely amazing. I had a fantastic group of housemates in the first year, and then I've joined in with the brass band and stuff. So I've kind of developed roots in Bath. So maybe it's a bit less Stockholm syndrome, more the fact I've enjoyed it so much.
Yeah,
But,
settle down. So brass band, what do you play?
I play a tuba. I would dig it out. It's to my left or right, whichever way the camera's facing on this. But yeah, it's massive, and it would probably take up the whole screen. But
yeah,
yeah,
I
I've
don't
been
know
doing
if we
that
have the
since...
microphone set up properly for that.
Oh yeah,
but...
yeah. I don't want to deafen the viewers.
Playing all the tech will break.
There.
Yeah, especially in here. But
Yeah.
cool, very cool. Yeah, so are you still playing with the brass band then from your undergrad days now?
Yeah. We've just come back from it was less of a contest, more of a drinking session, but it was yeah, we went to Devon and went around a few villages, and there's lots of pictures of me on the internet with a bear hat on, and
okay, we're gonna go find those off stream. But thank you for
yeah,
that.
F might have the best chance of getting them.
Amazing. Oh, fab. So did you when you kind of then chose to PhD, was it straight through from undergrad to PhD, or you took?
So I did my master's project with my current supervisor, again on viscoelastic fluids. There was a lot of loads of viscoelastics aren't really. It's a model for viscous fluids, Navier-Stokes equations. There's a model for elastic solids, like your Hooke's law behaviors. Nobody really has a clue what to do with the in-betweeny stuff for the viscoelastics. I think the last time I checked or put up a slide in the presentation, there's about 33 different models for them.
Jeez.
So my master's project was sort of like going through a couple of those and just classifying them based on like whether they were derived from molecular assumptions and stuff like that. And halfway through that, my supervisor suggested, well, why don't you do a PhD with me? We'll pick a model, do some actual mathematics with it, which at the time sounds really cool. It still does as well. So, but I was a bit late applying to SAMBa in my master's year, so I took a year out. I'm probably the only person to say that luckily there was a pandemic going on, so there was not much else happening in that year, but it gave me a chance to sort of build up an application to SAMBa, and then after that gap I sort of came back and basically picked up where I left off.
So did you do anything during your gap year to like maths, or was it just like a pure just like gap year break from academia, or did you do anything else in that time?
It was mostly a break from academia. I think I did bits of revision-y type stuff whenever the interviews and stuff. But yeah, there wasn't a lot going on for the first half. The summer was incredible weather-wise, so I managed to get a proper break. But then the second half, I did a bit of like bar work behind and stuff. So
okay,
so I managed to keep myself busy at least.
Yeah. Did you find that having a year off, it was kind of hard jumping straight back into maths, or was it not too bad?
I think for the first couple of weeks, it was kind of like I used to be able to do this. It's just getting used to the system again. I think SAMBa's quite intense anyway, but actually getting back into going to lectures and trying to write reports and stuff. But I think I really needed the break after the 4-year MMath course. Sorry.
No, I think that's completely reasonable, especially with everything else going on at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, you say you're part of the SAMBa CDT. The CDT structure is obviously designed to give you quite a lot of flexibility in your first year. So did you feel at any point that you were swayed away from the viscoelasticity, or was it kind of I'm gonna broaden my background knowledge, but this is the route I'm going down?
I think it was pretty much that. Yeah. I still had a chat with other potential supervisors about different projects, but I think the first year was mainly just trying to pick up all the knowledge I kind of didn't have from the undergraduate. So like a lot of the numerics knowledge I hadn't really studied in undergraduate, so I tried to pick that up.
Very nice. Yeah.
So you said you did some bar work. What was your favourite cocktail to make?
Luckily I got away with making cocktails. It was in a sort of a rural bar in Wales. So I guess it's more pub work, but
if someone asked you to, would you have to get the alchemy set out to make a cocktail?
No, I think the most I had to do were Jaeger bombs. That would probably been
okay.
Yeah. You weren't pouring what is it, the Clover in the Guinness top by any chance?
No, and I didn't get taught how to do that. It's a shame, really.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was mostly like Cascales was an interesting one to learn how to pull, but
Nice. Oh dear.
yeah, definitely kept me out of trouble. I think that's the reason I was put towards that.
Mm. Oh dear. Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna ask a question because I know the answer. So that's where we're going down. So obviously then you started doing your PhD. How far through the PhD are you? How long have you been doing this now?
So I've just come to the end of my first year.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So second year of the CDT, but first year of the actual PhD.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's sometimes gone quite slow. I think it's gone better recently. I managed to get some more results. If I had if I could draw things, I would. But basically, I've got a really pointy corner with fluid going around it. The upstream bit's fine, i.e., where the fluid's originating from. Numerically, where the fluid ends up is a bit more complicated. And I think I've finally got some graphs which look like they should do.
That's good.
So
Yeah, we
Didn't
we
know what
don't
that comes
like
across on.
corners.
yeah, but yeah,
Corners.
super pointy corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So with regards to kind of your day to day then during your PhD, you said you got upstream, downstream. Are you doing like a lot of computing and coding, or is it a lot of like sitting and thinking about maths, or is it anywhere in between those?
So I think at the moment it's been a lot of like trying to code in a set of ODs into MATLAB basically, but a large amount of my time is really theoretical maths, lots of asymptotics, and trying to decide which bits of the PG are actually worth keeping and which one we can get rid of and not worry about. Which means I've got a lot of A3 paper in my desk. You may not see my desk, but it is a total mess.
Sorry, did you say A3?
A3, yeah. These equations get kind of big.
Like,
Why not just use a whiteboard at that point?
It's just
Yeah.
I need record of it. Like, I suppose to take photos would be a good idea, but yeah, there's only the one whiteboard in the office. It's kind of
where are you getting A3 paper?
I've got contacts. But other than that, there's
I know a guy.
which is mostly true actually. But no, there's a big stash of A3 near the printers on level 3, so I've been nicking it from there.
I will keep that in mind
The more
for
you know.
no reason. Yeah, it's an I've seen a lot of study techniques. I think over the past few years, I've definitely seen yeah, as you say, people use whiteboards, take photos. I personally have a remarkable, so I'm just like dragging the. If you use a virtual tablet, you just drag the paper to be infinite size. I've never seen someone's story. What? Yeah, do you get A3 sized folders?
I think
Fascinated.
there's a lot of loose A3 paper on my desk. I think at the moment it's like a book of A3 paper folded with one A3 paper folded over.
Okay.
It's not my
Amazing.
preferred way of working. I do have a tablet which I usually do for note taking, but these things kind of get a bit long, so I need to
No,
just so I can visualize what's going on really with that and just do a lot of swiping.
I completely back this. I mean, I feel like this stream is just unorthodox writing styles between Phil's whiteboard, blackboard wall in his kitchen and Chris's A3 paper. This is fantastic.
He's got a blackboard wall in his kitchen.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was during the he went during the pandemic. One module he basically painted one of his walls in his house with blackboard paint to like use as a blackboard.
That's a brilliant idea.
I feel like there's going to be a run on blackboard paint soon. But
apparently, painted blackboards actually aren't that good. You might as well just buy an actual blackboard.
yeah, but you can't have like a full wall size
True.
one at that point. What
Yeah, I think
whiteboard
my
paint?
parents might not be too happy if I did it, but
We painted back. I mean, yeah, because if we, I feel like if I just start drawing on the walls, no one will notice. It'll be fine. Okay, don't do that, kids. That's not.
Unless you own the walls.
Yes, get permission from the wall owner before doing any serious modification.
Get consent from the wall.
Oh dear. I completely sorry with the A3 paper thing that completely threw me. I have no idea what we were talking about then. Study notes. Yes. Okay. So mix between like kind of sitting with maths and then coding stuff up.
yeah.
There's a nice balance. Very cool. MATLAB is excellent choice of programming
MATLAB
language.
is awful.
There's nothing else you can use. It has to be MATLAB. That's it.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a question we should have asked Phil though, because I think it's MATLAB as well.
Yeah, well, Phil only likes MATLAB because he likes the plotting in MATLAB.
Isn't matplotlib MATLAB plotting in Python?
No, it's worse.
Ah.
You can't do it. It depends how much down the rabbit hole you want to go with ticks.
Yeah, no.
No, it's just matcha for tips. That's all it is.
Yeah. No, very
So,
cool.
From like somebody now who's like starting their first proper year of their PhD and stuff, how much of like have you done like the amount of work you expected to do in your first year, more or less, or
Bold question.
Yeah, I think when you start off, you've got this like expectation that things are going to go really, really well. They're all going to motor on quite quick, and then you hit roadblocks. So I think, yeah, definitely compared to when I started, I think I've done less work, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's something I guess you might have to expect, really, that you may not do anywhere near as much work as you expect to do.
Yeah, future work sections in anything you write is always like a nice idyllic. Here's everything, every direction it could possibly go in, and how far down any of those roads you go is. Yeah, let's not talk about it. So obviously, I mean, you're hopefully not too stressed about it yet, but you're 1 year through. In the SAMBa program, in the mid of second year, you start thinking about confirmation.
Yeah.
So is that on the horizon for you? Are you not even acknowledging its existence yet?
I'm still refusing to acknowledge its existence. Although I will have to. Yeah. I think if I can get this white mets, the problem I'm working on, written up, that would be enough, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that's again, that's April, I think. So.
Our deadline was the end of March, so it'll be March, April time.
Yeah. I've still got a rough idea of where I'm going and what I need to do to carry on. So I think it should be. I think it'll be okay. Confirmation. Maybe ask me in December when I'm panicking about it, but
or not. Or we could not ask you in December. It'll be okay. We'll leave you to stress in the corner. It will be fine.
Yeah, it's like you have almost the same amount of time you've had like since like October until confirmation. Almost. It's like another 8 months. About 8 months of the academic year.
Yeah. Tell you what, you submit your confirmation and I'll submit my thesis and we'll do it together. It'll be fine. Oh, that's a stressful thought. Oh god, those deadlines line up quite nice.
When's your submission date?
We haven't said it yet.
At the same time as the confirmation.
But I think it's going to be springtime, so it'll be around then.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So as kind of 1 year in, I guess, and definitely not thinking about confirmation yet, but you've definitely laid some really good groundwork in the PhD. Do you have any advice for our darling start of his PhD, Henry?
As apart from don't expect to do absolutely tons of work. You're with Phil, I suppose he'll probably make you do tons of work, but just I think mostly just try and enjoy your first year. Don't worry too much about the rest of the things SAMBa make you do. Obviously PSS is going to be brilliant. But I think mostly just try and have fun with the stuff you're working with. So I guess if you've got a PD or something, just try and read up on some cool stuff around it. Don't spend the entire year doing your project and your project only. Just find some cool stuff to mess with, basically.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of cool stuff, you made the cardinal sin of saying an acronym without describing what it is. So can you please tell chat what PSS is and why specifically you would know about it?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So PSS is the postgraduate student seminars. And for the last, it's about 10 months now, something, I've been in charge of organising these seminars. So what we do is we invite, read pester, some of the postgraduates in the department to come and speak to us every Thursday on either what they're working on or something really cool that they've read. And yeah, it's really just a good chance for us to get to know what everyone else is doing, because other people practice for their confirmation vivas, for example, or if they're speaking at a conference. And there's a social aspect as well. Mostly biscuits. is where it's centered around. But yeah, it's been really cool to do, I think, and I'm sure Henry's going to do a fantastic job too.
Yeah, because I, for my sins, said I'm going to be one of the organisers for next year.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I mean, for you as well, but Chris, like going from, starting a PhD to organising a seminar series literally as you're starting, like that's quite an intimidating step. How did you find being the one in charge in the room that early on in your
that was
career?
kind of scary the first. I think I had to sell PSS or the seminar series to the first year's induction week, and I was first of all there's public speaking involved, which I was kind of terrified about in the first place. But yeah, it's mainly making sure that there's a level of engagement you haven't got as well. So it's making sure that you actually understand what people have got and you ask questions, you sort of moderate everybody else. There was a lot of running around because of the microphones in the seminar room. So I think I've definitely got fit out of doing it. But
nice.
But yeah,
there's always a bonus.
Yeah, but then in terms of like actual organisational stuff, being able to introduce people, organise and write emails. I've now got HTML, but I've got HTML skills, I think. But I've got a website. As a result, it's been a really good development thing to do.
Yeah,
and it was worth the intimidation at the start. I think it was definitely worth the intimidation at the start of the PhD.
Good. I'm glad. So you got all this to look forward to.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, so that's a really good point, though, that you bring up about like developing skills outside of just doing your research, and obviously giving you organising PSS, you kind of get the bonus of the organisational side, the speaking side as well. Do you do anything else to kind of develop, or what other skills are there in a PhD that you could or should develop as you go forward now in the next few years?
There's definitely, so the academic ones obviously about being able to speak and do presentations, be able to write reports and stuff. I kind of think it's definitely be able to organise events. I mean, there's this like conference organisation, but then there's also being able to organise things socially as well, because you definitely don't want to isolate yourself in the PhD. So being able to find groups of people that you can talk to, or go down to the pub with for a pint
or two.
Yeah. One of the, I guess, the key points of the academic community is the networking side of things.
Yes, that's
Yeah, and definitely going to the pub, or it turns out climbing centres also fantastic places for that.
So I'd love to get back. Unfortunately, arms are still a bit.
I was gonna say, are you feeling better yet? Need to get you out.
I normally spend like 3 or 4 weeks doing a bit of like getting back to the position where I think I'm okay, and then I go back climbing, and then it sort of resets a little bit. But
okay,
it's incredibly frustrating. But I'm guaranteeing that I will be climbing with you at some point before the year's out.
Fantastic. I'm sure we can fit that in.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up though is so I was up on holiday in Cambridge recently, and I go to the bouldering gym there, and I get down off the wall and I'm just laughing with some friends because I completely failed the climb that I just did, and it was a bit, you know how it is. And then someone from across the room shouted my name, and it's a colleague that I'd met at a conference year before last.
Okay.
And they were like, "Oh, I didn't know you were in Cambridge." So then we were having like a very nice, polite work chat. As I'm there, like completely like sweating through in the gym. And it turns out that about Cambridge there is the Isaac Newton Institute, which is where they host a lot of conferences and workshops. There was a big fluid dynamics, I think it's like machine learning for fluid dynamics, workshop going on, or summer school going on, and the climbing gym was just full of fluid dynamicists. So I'm there working out and like having a good time with friends, but then also like working every 5 minutes with new academics.
Oh, that's cool.
That we bumped into. So no matter where you are, having a good networking skill is invaluable because you don't know who you're going to run into. But yeah, I think that's definitely the strangest place that I'd met someone that I work with, for sure.
The best bit of networking I did would have been like 1 a.m. or 12 a.m. in the pub, wasn't it? Back at
BAMC.
Applied Mathematics Conference.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
So we had a day at this Applied Mathematics Conference in Bristol. Had the conference dinner, disappeared off to a pub, which shut remarkably early, and then ended up in, I can't remember exactly where it was, but then one of my friends, Fraser, Kat, introduced me to a guy called David Sibley, who was also a student of my current supervisor. So we were working on similar things. We ended up pulling a laptop out in the middle of a pub and discussing maths for, I can't remember, it was about an hour on it.
I think the place was closing and we had to drag you away, and we were like, please
That might have
exchange emails.
No, we
so
had to,
you
we
could-
had to get we had to get a bus.
You
There was a
could,
bus. Yeah, there was a bus to get back to Bath.
Yeah. The reason for the apology is I wanted to do the introducing because I'd met the guy earlier in the day and I was like, you need to meet Christian. But it's one of the benefits, okay, of being a more senior PhD student is that you get to bring all of the new PhD students and just throw them at people at conferences and be like, go make friends. But I still get my claim to fame of taking you to your first conference.
I think so. The fluids one in Sheffield.
UKFN. Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Yes, so last September, I think it was. So very early on in your PhD, negative 1-2 weeks, I think technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would have still been doing your master's year, I believe.
Yes, so I was writing up the thesis formulation, or the dissertation part during the actual conference. So
yeah, so very early on, I dragged you across the country to Sheffield for a conference. So yeah, how did you? I mean, now that you're kind of more settled in the PhD, how did you find that experience? Like, was it then more comfortable going to conferences now that you're actually part of your PhD? Like, how do you think it was? Pretend I asked an intelligent question there and answer it, please.
No. I still understand as much. It doesn't matter if I guess it probably won't matter if you'd taken me before my PhD, during the PhD, or afterwards. I'm still going to understand as much as I did at that first conference, which was relatively little. But it was a really interesting experience. There's lots of cool fluid mechanics out there. I was very happy to sit in on the non-Newtonian fluid section and pointing out all these models, going, I know that one. But definitely, yeah. So the networking is also fantastic. Thank you very much for pointing out all the Warwick lot. Quite cool. Yeah, they're really good experiences. So, but I think the first one was definitely nice as it was an introduction. There was no expectation to do anything. At least the more recent one, I've had to sort of spend a bit more time sort of focusing on what people do more than anything else, because that's ultimately where I'm going to end up. I'm going to have to speak at something or present a poster. So,
yeah, is that kind of on the cards for you then in the next conference you go to, or are you thinking like next conference season? Or
I think maybe not the next conference I go to, but definitely I think there's a goal there to at least present either a poster or do a talk at something.
Yes. And I for one, am looking forward to going to it. So I think you should definitely get on that before I leave.
Drag you back.
Basically, yeah.
I'm sure the university will pay for the flights.
Yeah, it's very important that I come back for your talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a question message to us. What's the difference between the types of fluids that the three of us do? So obviously, the three of us are all fluid dynamic.
We all do different things.
Yeah. So I guess I would play the game of. Do you want to go 3 words? Or do you want to do brief explanation?
We could do 3 words and brief explanation.
That works. Chris, describe your field of fluid dynamics in 3 words.
This still seems quite very vague. I would say fluids with memory.
Okay. Mine, as always, is going to be drops go boing.
Waves from bumps.
Waves from bumps. Okay, fine. What's the more detailed explanation? Obviously, you said at the start, but let's just go over it again then, Chris. So, you viscoelastic.
Yeah, so it's basically it's fluids materials have properties of both like viscous liquids such as oil and water, and elastic solids such as I guess springs are usually or springs or rubber. And as a result, because of the viscous behavior that comes from like the oil or watery type part, there's friction which sort of affects how well the material can actually return to its original state after you mess with it, basically. And the more viscous behavior, or the more friction inside, the less memory this fluid has, so you won't be able to return back to its original state. With this, you can sort of characterize viscous fluids as fluids with no memory whatsoever, where I guess a bit like me. So if you try pouring water out of a cup, it won't return back to its original state. Whereas elastic solids have perfect memory, and if you try stretching them or doing some twisting stuff and release it, it will always bounce back to its. There is always this, at least on small scale deformations anyway, there's this little bit of a thing about Hooke's law, not holding beyond a point, but you can definitely get nonlinear or elastic solids that behave in different ways too. That'll also return back.
So the thing that I'm picturing in my head at this point is, you know, when you tip a jelly out, but it hasn't quite set properly, and it kind of like has corners, but it kind of flumps.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, we'll go for that.
Okay. It's kind of not very viscous. Maybe more putty than jelly.
Do you explain your one next? Your bouncing droplet.
Yeah. So I mean, before I just want to detour. Obviously, that's the fluid that you study. But like, so you said you were looking at it going around a corner. Is that the only geometry that you consider, or are you putting this fluid through different?
At the moment, yeah, it could. I guess the more industrially useful one is what's known as dye swaps. So you can take this viscoelastic fluid and have it run through a pipe into an invisible medium such as air. And what happens is, due to the tension inside the pipe releasing as you move into the air, the fluid sort of swells up. And being able to control or understand exactly how much swelling occurs and how to control that is quite good for when you're trying to do injection molding, for example, with polymers or like plastics processing, basically.
That makes sense. Like when you turn on the garden hose and you can't control where it's going.
Yeah, so that's a potential thing after I've dealt with this pointy corner, basically.
Okay.
Very cool. Yeah. So I guess my fluids are not anywhere near as exciting. I'm at the minute looking at water and air, but I'm looking specifically at like the interface of where those two liquids join. And the system that I'm looking at is a droplet of liquid or droplet of water falling towards a very big bath of water, and I'm looking at how those fluids move. And hopefully they rebound and the droplet bounces. So I don't have any pointy corners. I don't have any super complicated fluids. I do have like water is a little bit viscous, so there's some viscosity there. It's a little bit, but nothing with memory beyond my GitHub commits. Hopefully, when I remember to do that. So it's quite, I'd say, quite far from your stuff, unfortunately, which is a shame because your stuff sounds so cool. I really wish I'd been doing complex fluids sometimes.
And I'm studying, if you have a fluid that then travels over, you have like the bed of the fluid, say like the bottom, and then waves are generated if you have like a weird bottom topology. So then you get waves generated by the fluid then passing above that. And then I'm studying problems relating to what kind of bottom topologies can you have? How big can they be? If you have a corner, the difference if you have like a sphere or like a step. And then you have cases where downstream of the stems you have gravity waves, so quite big waves, but actually upstream it will generate waves which will travel against the flow upstream as well. Yeah, like capillary waves as well. No, they're not like traveling that way, but you get waves also generated which go in the upwards direction as well.
And your fluids is
water.
Okay.
But again, with maybe some surface tension or vorticity and stuff.
So I suppose that kind of, we're gonna squint here and take our glasses off. It kind of sits in between my stuff and Christian's.
Yeah, because I have a corner.
Yeah, and I have water. See, perfect. There's a nice linear scale there that definitely makes sense. We're sure.
Well, I also do asymptotics as well.
Nice.
Oh, you're doing asymptotics as well, Chris?
Yeah, although nowhere near the scale that Henry's going to be doing the asymptotics, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, because I mean it's interesting. One of the things that I don't know about you guys, I particularly love about fluid dynamics, is how fundamentally we can get away with describing our entire system with a picture.
Yes.
Like I love the visualization of it. So when both of you were talking, you describe what you can see, and then sometimes there's more complicated stuff going on there that we don't want to think about. But fundamentally, it's squishy fluid round a corner, droplet bouncing, and
Wave over bump.
over a bump. Yeah. Can you go help the Welsh councils with the speed bumps, because they're obviously annoying me at the minute.
If you can model the cars as an inviscid, if you have enough vehicles, then they'll be on top of each other.
Inviscid fluid. Yeah.
It's all right
Well,
though, because the speed limit here is coming down to 20 mile an hour, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I had an absolute panic. I was in South Wales actually last week. Yeah, I was having a crisis because I couldn't remember if it had gone into place yet or not. Obviously, I'm just going to derail the conversation for the next like 10 minutes. Sorry, Henry. So you're from North Wales. Can we have a bit of a conversation, please, about your word for milk? Because I have grapes.
All right. Slice, right?
You're
Which-
Llafrith, aren't you?
I think I've always been taught Slice, but
Chris, you
This
learn in South Walian dialect.
I mean, I've been in Bath for 7 years. It's kind of sort of must be getting it by osmosis. But I will ask my brother's girlfriend's Welsh. I will ask her when I
Chris, on you Welsh.
Yes, but she's more Welsh than she's sort of like
On a gradient. Yeah. I mean, it's
Also
one of
deep
the
South Wales,
interesting
but,
things about our country is that you kind of have this very large population in South Wales. Obviously, we were really hit with the Industrial Revolution, and we had all the mines and the docks and everything. And then you have North Wales, where you've got a lot of cultural heritage, but you still had that influx across from the English border. And then in the middle, you've got the lovely Mid Walians who don't exist because they're either south or north. We don't really consider Mid Wales real. You've got Powys. Powys is fantastic. But there's loads of mountains there, so we don't really talk North and South Wales that much. So it's always interesting when you meet someone from the other side to be like, what regional differences do you notice? And aside from the Scouse accent, it's a bit of a shame.
Unfortunately, I'm stuck with that. But
yeah, but it's fine as long as we're supporting the same side on the rugby.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Did you watch the most recent friendly, Chris?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, mate.
No, it's not worth watching.
Shut up. Wales England played on last Saturday in Cardiff. And we did quite well. It was 23? 27?
Something like that.
What?
He's keeping score.
I was just too
Nice.
smug at this point. I was having a great the Midlands of Wales, not the Midlands of England.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same
We're
thing.
always ignored.
Sorry, we're getting some heckling from behind the mod screen at this point. Yeah, I believe there's another friendly this weekend. Yeah, but this one's being played in Twickenham, so we'll see how it goes.
We'll lose again. It'll be fine.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I should be around to watch this one.
Ooh,
I mean, I was last weekend. I was in a field.
Oh yes, of course. You were gigging festival in.
No signal for 72 hours is the weirdest feeling I've ever had. But
did you feel calmer?
Once I'd got over the fact that I wasn't going to get any signal, yes.
Yeah, once you move past the existential
check my
dread.
phone constantly, but
yeah, honestly, highly recommend. I think in last summer, I went on a literally just a weekend with my partner, and I was like, I'm going to the middle of nowhere. You can come if you want, but I just don't want to talk to people for a while. And we went on a full tech ban for a weekend, and it was the most calming thing. Highly recommend. It's good. It's good, especially if the PhD starts getting a bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the only other thing kind of left to say is bye. No, sorry.
It's goodbye.
That's it.
Yeah. So we're being politely told to wrap things up in a little bit. Is there anything more that you wanted to say, Chris? So any advice that you have for people watching, or any I don't know, here's your moment to shine. You can go and quote a soliloquy if you want.
I can dig that tube
Anything
round.
you want to say.
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. Just PhDs are fun. They can be stressful sometimes, but they are definitely a whole lot of fun. So
Fantastic.
And don't worry if the things don't go your way for a while. Eventually they will. So
Let's hope.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
There we go. And fluid dynamics is a great subject, so you should definitely do
yes,
that.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's what you should be taking.
The only true bit of mathematics.
Of
Yes.
course. Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. This has been
And
really,
always thank
really
you for having us
fun.
again.
Yeah, so we're gonna jump really quickly to a BOV screen and then we're just gonna end off. But yeah, thank you again, and we will see you soon. I'm sure the internet will see you at some point if they can find your website. So
That's true.
with the bear hat, the bear hat on the internet is apparently a thing that we'll set a scavenger hunt for, I guess. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. Like I
We're
said,
gonna
Beth
wrap
might
up.
have the best chance of finding it, but
Fantastic. Okay. Bye, and yeah, we'll see you very shortly.